Hey guys, Jeff and Kyle here, Protein Bros Podcast.
Sup?
It is our, it's a special episode. We wanted to do something special for it. It's our 50th episode, guys. This is something that we were really passionate about. We've had a lot of fun doing this podcast, and we have a lot of fun coming up when it comes to the guests that we're having on in the future and the plans that we have in the future. But today we are really proud and excited to bring you guys someone who's had a huge impact on Kyle and I both, personally and professionally. He's acted as like an older brother and a mentor for me, and I know for Kyle as well. Sal Frisella, he's the president of Phorm, but he's also a guy that has helped us as far as, for over the last decade, shape and mold not only Phorm, but the fitness industry as a whole. And I think you guys, if you guys have the time to truly listen in on this, maybe grab a notepad because he's going to be giving you a ton of phenomenal advice.
It's a good episode.
Make sure to listen in and let us know what you guys think in the comments. This is our 50th episode.
You're our 50th episode.
And if you follow Andy Frisella's Instagram story, he said that you cannot ask him to be on your podcast unless you've had 50 episodes. So we appreciate you letting us, have you on at 49.
So am I like the fluffer?
49. Yeah. Thank you for letting us have you on after only 49 episodes.
Well, my entries are actually 50 as well. That's pretty got it.
I love it. Sal, you've done a bunch of shit in your life, a lot that I know of, Kyle knows a lot of, but not a lot of other people know of, and so we really wanted to have you on here because I think we both are super proud to know you, and we know what you've accomplished outside of Phorm, and I think that's a lot of stuff that people don't know, and we want to talk about it today. Is that cool?
Yeah. No filter. Nothing that'll get us in trouble because we'll all get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, we can't talk about old stories. We just talk about,
we can highlight.
Yeah. Luckily, this isn't an Instagram live, so we can edit out whatever we need to.
I say we let it roll.
Yeah. So for starters, this is a cool thing. Sal was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals and grew up a giant St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Mm-hmm.
How did that even happen in the sense of, like, you got 31 teams, I believe, in Major League Baseball, maybe 30?
I think it's 30.
And you got drafted by the fucking one team that you would absolutely just die to play for.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool day for sure. But the reality of the situation is I was in the 37th round.
Mm-hmm.
I was like the 1,112th pick or something like that. And and even though you're so late in the draft, it was funny because you're listening to the draft, and I was anticipating like a round 20. That's kind of like what we were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to like round 25, and I was like, man, fuck this. I got in my truck. I drove back to college because I'm like, I'm going to go out with my boys tonight. Like, I'm, at home, I was like, really.
I'm not going to sit around here and be tense.
Yeah. Brutal. Literally back then, you didn't have like podcasts. You'd listened on some backlink through your dial-up, internet.
Oh, yeah.
And it keeps cutting in and out, and it's like, we're the 1,000th pick, and you're like listening to it. It's just, it's agonizing.
Yeah.
And I drove all the way back to college.
Which is SIUC Carbondale.
Yeah, I went to Carbondale.
Yeah.
And walked in, and my roommate at the time was listening to the draft, and I walked in. I literally cracked a beer, and I walked around the corner, and then they said, 37th round with the 1,112th pick, we select Paul Frisella. And I was like, oh, no shit. You know what I mean? And it was a cool moment, though, because, Greg and I got to, it's like a childhood dream, right? Like your whole life, all you want to do is play baseball. And it's a kid's game that men have the opportunity to play.
Right.
And, it was a cool experience to be able to just go through it. Although I was like, towards the back quarter of the draft, it's still a surreal thing to kind of be able to process in life.
Oh, yeah, they still announced your name like everybody else.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
Yeah.
It was cool. Little did I know you signed up to go ride around in a shithole bus and make, $200
$12, yeah.
People don't know the grind of the minor leagues.
Oh, it's finally starting to change a little bit for the better. It's just taking them way too long.
It is. It's interesting because, when you start, I sound like such an old guy, and I guess I am. But, there were no, like, equality measurements back then. I mean, we made like $2 an hour, but you're living your dream, so you don't care. It's kind of like irrelevant.
It's all part of it in the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of like part of the buy-in process. Like, that's what we do. And, now you have the MILB, unionizing, and they're going against, and they're suing. And I actually don't disagree with what they're doing. But at the time, like, I didn't even care.
Right.
I wasn't there to make money. I was there to get to the big leagues.
Right.
So, and it was a lot of fun, man. I mean, I've made some of the best friends in my entire life. In fact, most of my leadership capital comes from a locker room just because I understand what happens in a locker room, how to organize it, and especially in a professional locker room, you got Man, you got guys from all over. You got them. They're from the Dominican. They're from Colombia. They're from the DR.
Oh, and the biggest egos you could possibly imagine. I'm sure.
You got first round picks. You got, guys that just signed for a couple $1,000,000 and guys who literally came from a grass hut. They're all in the same room, right?
Yeah. And some of those grass hut guys are getting the millions now, right?
They have to work their way there.
Sure.
I mean, you'd be in the locker room. You got, just the gamut of people. And I think it helps me in business today because I've been around quite a few different personalities. But some of these younger guys in professional baseball, I mean, they would cook on the road. They'd buy chicken and rice and they'd be dancing in the room. They'd make homemade liquor. Like it was like a fucking deal,
Yeah, it was a definite, like cultural shock being around such things.
Yeah, and then you had the first round guy who just signed for $1.8 million, and he's out eating steak. It's like, it's just
it's a pretty big
on
difference.
the same team. Yeah,
the dichotomy of a locker room.
I was fortunate enough to do one season with the Springfield Cardinals as an intern, not at all playing,
selling tickets.
That's right. But I was around a lot of these players, man, and it was cool. But we had some of the guys that that we had Shelby Miller.
Yep.
Right. Shelby Miller was first round draft pick, got over $2 million guaranteed signing bonus right off the bat. And he drove up in the nicest Mercedes I'd ever seen. And then we obviously had other dudes that were from a grass hut or were a 37th round pick. And they were just like, yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy how their personalities were completely different. You could tell the ones who had humility, who were just really down to earth people. And you could tell the ones that just thought that everything was, gold spoon for them, everything. It was crazy.
It's, listen, it's an interesting world. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny, and even in today's world, baseball's still here. We have Trevor Rosenthal, Kyle McCullough. We got these Cardinal players that come around our atmosphere, but just sharing stories and being a part of that whole journey is cool. Just because no 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about like a defining moment in your life because I know you've shared it on your own personal social media quite a few times over the course of the last 20 years. But just if you guys haven't already,
one of the craziest videos I've ever seen.
As we're listening to this, if you're listening to this now, pull out your phone, pull out your laptop, go ahead and go to YouTube, search Sal Frisella, broken leg. Is that good? I think that'd work. I think it'd pull up.
It would get there.
Yeah. And it was how many days after this incident? Because Sal decided to slide home, and at the time, you either run through the catcher. At this time in baseball, this was legal. Right now, is that hit legal nowadays?
Shit, I'm so out of touch with baseball.
Yeah, I think it's no longer like you're allowed to just bulldoze a catcher at the home plate to make him drop the ball, and you get to home and you're safe. And you did that, and he didn't catch the ball, and you got home and you got safe. But in the time, it was a femur snapped in half. Is that correct?
Tib.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dear God.
Yeah. But I mean,
it's a gruesome video. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. Thatcher, are you watching it right now? Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. So, we're in a playoff race. It's August 4th. And we were in the 1-2 battle with the guys we were playing against. And minor leagues are really interesting because a lot of these guys because you've played against them either for a couple years or in college or summer ball or something. And especially when you start getting down to that playoff race, you go to the bar with these guys. I mean, this is what a lot of people don't understand. Like, you'll play, you'll go to the bar. And guys that you played with, you're drinking beer with at the bar, so then, start talking a little shit at night, whatever. And this particular night, I had like 4 or 5 family members drive up to watch me play. Now I'm on third base, bases are loaded. We're in a first place, second place situation. Ground ball hit the first base, and I saw it. I'm like, man, I'm gonna fucking set the tone and crush this dude right now. And that was it. Like I was coming in. And it's really ironic because home plate was wide open, and technically I would say what I did was dirty baseball, which is not really how I played. Just very aggressive.
Just want to set the tone. Yeah.
Yeah. It was more like
message.
Yeah. Like there's a tone that can be set on a baseball diamond, and it's more like fucking attitude. And that was my role. Like I am that guy. I'm still that guy. And sure as shit, man. I was going in, and I remember teeing him. I can even remember, like, it happens to me in slow motion where I'm coming in. I'm like, I am going to fucking kill this guy. And the throw was low, and he just ducked. Just happened. Leg came into mine, snapped it in half, and the rest is history. And so that was the last game I played.
When you watch the video, it's actually hard to like tell what exactly happens until
the collision.
You're away from the base. No, it's when you're away from the base and you're crawling back to tag home, and you lift your leg up while you're crawling back, and that leg looks like it's gonna fucking fall off your body.
It's dangling. Yeah, it's dangling.
Yeah, well, what's cool about that too? So the third base coach for the Cardinals now, his name's Ron Warner, and he was my manager.
He was the manager at Springfield when I was there.
Yeah, so Pop, I remember flipped over, and my leg was vibrating, kind of like a tuning fork, and I made eye contact with him, and he just pointed at me. He's like, "Touch home," 'cause Pop's a real aggressive guy too, and he would want me to go get that guy,
Yeah.
And so I just naturally instinct, like, oh shit, I got to go touch home. And I remember my leg was vibrating like hell. And I reached back and touch it, looked back at my leg. And actually the guy standing over me is Brendan Ryan. He played for the Cardinals for quite some time. And I look back at my leg and you can hear me, I'm like, fuck. Because, you look at it, my toe is like pointing backwards at me, kind of. And I'm like, well, that ain't good.
Dude.
And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. And so, yeah, man, it's been quite the ride since that day. Just because you spend so much time, you got to think. I don't know if I had 100,000 hours of playing baseball or sports in my life up until that moment, and you have to look in the mirror like this is like one of those days.
Mm-hmm.
This is a divergent day. Like I'm gonna have to make a different decision, and
our identity is changing like overnight.
Well, yeah, but you don't process it then.
Right.
That takes a minute, and this is kind of goes into, you really look back on these defining lows in your life and realize that they're actually just pivots for you to start redefining your highs. And it took me a minute just to understand that. And when I say a minute, it took me months to go through that process, almost really like 14, 15 months. And there were times that after the 14 or 15 months that I still didn't understand it, right? So when you think back, like, I have surgery, I go through, I'm still going to play again in my brain. But that's not really the reality of what was happening.
Sure.
What was happening is I was just realizing that I'm an old guy in the grand scheme of things. I'm 24 in the minor leagues. I'm kind of a washed up piece of used equipment at this point. I got to go through the rehab because that's part of the process. And then you start seeing some of the writing on the wall, like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be here. Mm-hmm. And a conversation as my dad just walked by, I always told him, I said, like, do not let me be the guy that drags out playing baseball. Like, do not let me do that. Mm-hmm. Because I've seen so many of them where they go from playing baseball, where their identity is so wrapped up in playing baseball or whatever that is, that they never pass on and really go into anything else in life. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be one of those people. I wanted to use the assets that I learned and progress.
Mm-hmm. Apply them to something new that you can be successful at.
Yeah, and a lot of that's through failure, right? So, when you look at that moment, I remember having a conversation with my dad. He's like, maybe it's time, Fuck.
Do you ever get the Rick Ankiel thoughts in your head? Like I could be that guy?
Well, I do. I was in rehab with Rick.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. He's a wild man, dude.
Yeah.
Like tequila in the back pocket on the field. Wild man. And, but you do and you don't because, Rick was wildly talented. I was not a wildly talented player. Mm-hmm. I've always been a really good grinder. Like I'm a very good teammate. I'm a very hard worker. I understand how the locker room operates, which is what made me valuable to the team. Is like, I was never a 10. I was probably always like a 6 or a 7. But I would set standards very high, and I would hold those standards, and I never let them budge. Mm-hmm. And so in a team environment, that's where my strength
glue
came.
guy, for sure.
Yeah, and I just knew, I knew some of the things. I knew the difference between right and wrong, and I would never budge in those capacities when it came to the team. And so my skill set was not what kept me there. It was more my ability to be an asset to the team is what really why they had me. Mm-hmm. And so, when you're not a wildly talented guy like a Rick Ankiel, like there's no reason to keep this guy.
Right.
We got to get on and keep moving. Mm-hmm. And so, and when you start realizing it, you're like, holy shit, man, like I got 100,000 hours in here and maybe they don't amount to anything. Because there's a depressing part of life.
From a tangible result at the time, for sure. But as we know now, like those values and things that have been instilled in you obviously applied really well to the rest of your, career. But at the time, you have no idea that's going to do it,
Yeah, and it's the poor me in the moment, right? Like that's what happens to people, especially when they're in their lows. It's like, why me? Like, why would this happen to me? And I think that's what I've learned, and hopefully, shaping young people or young men specifically, which is what I love to do. Is teaching them that the lessons that you can learn is like, really, why me? Like, why is this happening to you? And then how can you pivot that and make it into a success story, right? Like, how can you use that as a pivot to move? And, it took me a while, 14, 15, 16 months to move on. So you have to use those moments as pivots, but without perspective and getting older, you don't see them as that, because in the moment you're scared, right? You're lonely. You're nervous.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if I fail? There's no positive thoughts that happen inside of that. It's all negative. And I think as I've gotten older, what I've trained my brain to think is when it gets really warm and uncomfortable like that, you're usually in a really good spot to make a good opportunity for something to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look back on that defining moment, what I can learn from is probably maybe the best thing that's ever happened to me. And the reason I say that is I wasn't living the life that I should live, meaning being a man of character with the talents that God gave me. I was a really good locker room guy, but I was not really a good person to society. I wasn't a good gentleman. It's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a good boyfriend at the time. Just the truth. I wasn't the man that I wanted to be. And I think and I wasn't giving baseball really the presence that it deserved with my talent. I was more concerned with going out at the bar at night and being cool versus being impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me a really good perspective because I wasn't giving it the respect that it deserved. I believe that God took it from me, right? And said, hey, you're not going to burn this one. But it took me, a few years to kind of digest that and understand, I have to take my talents, I have to take my experience, and I have to apply them to add value to the world, not just to myself. And I think that was the pivot that really happened is in professional baseball, I'd learned to make it about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about my journey and what I'm doing. And, you're cool, right? I come back, I'm in the St. Louis Cardinals, I go to the bars, this guy plays with the Cardinals. Even though I'm a little peon in the grand scheme of things, there's this egocentric thing to it. And that was really the transition for me that I realized, man, if you make it about them, they'll make it about you. And I had to transition that mindset, and that opportunity of me losing baseball was a good pivot point for me to really transition into the next part of my life, which is trying to be a man of character.
And did you go ahead? You're good.
I mean, so, for us who knew you even before you had joined Phorm, there was that point that was a pivot in your life, and then there was also the pivot from being as successful in your next career into joining Phorm, which was at the time, people don't know this, but it was absolutely nothing. It was just sold through supplement superstores. Do you think that going through that made it easier to make a decision that, from the outside looking in, me and Jeff were hourly employees when you joined Phorm, and
speak for yourself, dog.
Oh, you were a manager.
I'm just joking.
Shit, sorry.
Oh no,
we were peons, dude. It's basically
Sal,
what we were.
The bottom line is, I met Sal on his 30th birthday.
Yeah.
It was a surprise birthday party.
That's
he had an
right.
American flag button-up shirt, and all I'd heard from Andy was that Sal was the absolute best fucking salesman you'll ever meet. Number one.
So that was what permeated through our culture.
Sal,
and then
Sal was put on the biggest pedestal you could possibly put on, because Andy did not give praise often. And when he did, it was you better fucking listen.
Yeah.
And so when I met Sal, I was like, this dude's going to, at the time, all I was known for was sales. That was the only thing I had in my pocket that I felt like I knew I was good at. And so I was like,
Jeff's I'm fucking better at sales than this guy.
Fuck no, I did not think that. I
Still thinks that.
all I could think of was dude, I can't wait to learn from this guy. And I remember meeting his wife at the time, girlfriend, and I was like, man, this girl's hot as hell. Who's this girl? And then I was like, damn, Sal's
right.
fucking fiance.
Got good game.
Anyways,
Still got it.
So when we were at that point, you were obviously very successful at J&J, and then when Andy told us you were going to join Phorm and be Phorm's essentially first employee, is that correct?
Correct.
Me and Jeff were like, dude, we're doing it.
It's happening.
We're fucking doing it. The company is going to fucking take off. We got this stud, the best fucking salesman Andy knows. Andy's fucking,
I heard they're going to buy a Nissan Maxima to drive around the country and fucking sell some products.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I'm saying is that a lot of people looked at that choice in your life outside of us, which we were pumped about it, but a lot of people probably that you were surrounded with were like, what the fuck are you doing?
You want to hear something I know that you probably don't think? Dude, I care about everything. Whenever it came to being young in this company, dude, if something happened, I read it, I remembered it. Sal made a Facebook status that day, and he said, first day of early retirement starts today.
Ooh.
That's funny.
Did you know that you said that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's funny you remember that. It's really, that's good.
That's deep.
I care.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut. That's a 2010,
He
maybe?
said the first day of early retirement starts today. And in my head, I was like, fuck, yes. You know what I'm saying?
But dude, think
Because,
about a lot
dude,
of people he was surrounded with were probably like, this fucking idiot.
We have a core value in our company called Believe, and I'm telling you, we had a podcast yesterday with some guys, and they were asking us about our story, and I was just like, dude, me and Kyle, we just fucking burned the boats way earlier than everybody else. Everybody else had some kind of backup plan. We did not. We were just like, this is what we're fucking doing, and I don't care what it takes, you know?
Yeah.
And I just remember whenever you did that, I was like, dude, we're getting closer to the step where I get to do something cool, because I know that this is the things that need to happen in order for like my career to line up. And so with you going on full time, and I knew that you were making really good money at J&J, really, really good money, and at least for the last few years that you were there. And I just remember being like, damn, if he's doing that, we got a lot of belief. We got a lot of good guys.
Well, you got to buy in.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I'm a man of my word, see?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple things. Like I got out playing, and it's kind of funny because, one, I appreciate our friendships always. You guys know that.
Sure.
You guys are like kids to me in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because, I started selling copiers. And
Xerox back then?
Yeah, well, I worked for a company called Icon. So before I went to J&J, I sold copiers.
Mm-hmm. Was this, I'm sorry to interrupt, but first job after baseball?
First job after baseball. I mean, dude, I retired. So, got let go almost, August. And then I went down and did a little Katrina relief work, and it was a shit show. That was a whole different story.
Some fast cash, if you will.
Yeah, and then I started my job. And man, I went from being like having like the coolest job you could possibly have to being like the fucking biggest douchebag possible.
I sell copiers.
Yeah, like it was, and I when I say douchebag, I don't mean it like people who do it are. It's like in my brain, you'd walk into a bar and, you're like trying to tell somebody like your job. I went from telling people, yeah, I play professional baseball, to yeah, I sell copiers. And it was like,
it's hard transition.
Bro, it was demoralizing.
Yeah, that was that first identity crisis right there.
Well, and you want to talk about learning how to sell, like try telling a girl that, hey, listen, like I play professional baseball. It's a way easier transition into, what do you do? Well, I sell copiers, you know, but I quickly adapted to like, well, I'm a technology advanced salesperson.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that spin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it's like, but it was a really good learning skill, because if you can learn to make a copier transaction interesting or fun or different, you can learn a lot about selling things, right?
Mm-hmm. You sell a copier, you can sell a lot.
Well, but I think it still comes back to the same thing. You have to deliver a result. You have to find, problem solution benefit. And unfortunately, most people don't understand that concept. Like you're there to solve a problem. And it just kind of caught on quick. And I actually liked the hustle a little bit, because it was, it was fun. And then
New game.
Had a little bit of success and had an opportunity to take a med device job with J&J. Then I went to J&J and had a lot of fun at J&J. But I had the job, right? I was 26 years old, 25, 26, 27, and even into 28, I worked for J&J. And I was fortunate enough, had some sales success, got promoted, went through the thing, and, I was making really good money. I was making, $300,000-$400,000. I was 26 years old. This is 20 years ago too. And I, company car, the whole deal, but it wasn't fulfilling. And it was one of those things that making money for me at the time was like everything that you focus on. It's like, I just want to make money. And this is for the younger guys, and it's really for anybody out there. And if you focus so hard on the money, what you realize is it's not that money cannot bring happiness. It's that money does not equal happiness. It's two totally different things. And I was focused on just making money, but I had no purpose in what I did every single day. So making money became easy to me. However, I didn't value it because of the purpose of what I showed up for every day. And, Andrew and Chris were, they had supplement superstores, and, they were changing people's lives, and they were going through the process, and I was watching them have success too. And they were talking about, building a product line, and, Andrew had, painted this vision about Phorm and what he wanted it to be and what it could ultimately be, and the holes in the industry. And, people are there to sell, wraps and pills, and like, we have to be a holistic solution to helping people change their lives, which wasn't happening at the time.
Yeah, for everybody listening, there was a massive quality gap in the supplement industry at the time.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I don't know the audience exactly, but in 2000,
it was like 8.
Yeah, 8. There were, the internet was derived around selling, stack it deep, sell it cheap, like the cheapest formulas as fast as you can, and it wasn't about quality and helping people. It was just about selling product.
Mm-hmm. Over promising and under delivering.
Correct. And Andrew's always got a good visionary sense, And he's like, listen, people are going to need results. And people ultimately will buy for people who can deliver results. And that went for the retailer and it went for the end consumer. And so Chris, Andrew, and I sat down in the Starbucks and we kind of drew up our little game plan and, our division of ownership and how it's going to work and what's going to happen literally at Starbucks on Sun Ferry on a yellow piece of paper. And 10 days later, I got a 2008 Nissan Maxima and we were rocking and rolling, bro. And,
well, you were one of the original investors, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
In Phorm?
Yeah.
No, I have zero money involved.
Oh, okay.
So it's a equity ownership over time thing.
Sure.
Based of production. Like, hey, if we, because there's, point in time, I'm not saying like we don't know if it's going to work, but 20% of nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
So
what do we?
yeah. And so, and I had a lot to learn, man. Andrew and Chris taught me a lot about the business early on, just because it was new to me. But we had a lot of fun, man. Like it was, Chris and Andrew and I. So Chris is the one that nobody knows, who's Andrew's original business partner. Yeah, El Gusto. But Chris is like a brother to me too. So Chris, Andrew, and I all played football together. We were all in the same backfield. I was a quarterback. Andrew was a fullback. Chris was a tailback. Andrew would be yelling in the huddle. Things don't change. Chris would shut the fuck up, and Andrew and I would be fighting a little bit. But we've been battling with each other for the better part of 30 years now. And so it was easy, really. At first, people are always like, "What's it like working with your brother?" And I'm like, honestly, it's not. I'm so used to it. It doesn't even faze me. And we've gotten better over time because we've had our knockdowns. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah,
legitimately. Yeah,
yeah, legitimately. And that's okay. I think it's part of it too. We're both passionate to win.
Yeah.
And so it's not who gets credit. It's that we both want to win. And so, that piece of our relationship, early on was pretty easy just because. But we had a mission, and that mission was to go help people change their lives and to help store owners have a better business model and to teach store owners business. Because let's be honest, most store owners are not good business people. That's just what I've learned. We have 1,000+ store owners that we consult and help if they want, providing a better business model with a quality product that can help their customers ideally achieve a result. And we played the long game, and we've never made the most money in the sense of product formulation. We're usually more expensive than most people in the category in some capacity. It's based off of quality and testing and how we go about processing our goods and the service level that we have inside our business, employing real people, not robots, and, being able to call in and talk to a NASM certified, sports nutrition specialist or a dietitian. These are all assets we've been able to invest in over time, and all with the mindset of helping these people change their lives. And so, when I could see some of those early thoughts, it was really easy for me to leave, being a cog in the wheel. Although I was good at it and I could make money, it wasn't fulfilling. Like, it didn't make me happy. I wasn't, they would sell it to you like, oh, you're helping this patient live a more comfortable life. And I could regurgitate the information and go to a doctor. But like when I got home and I really processed what was looking back at me in the mirror, like I'm not saying I knew it was bullshit, but it wasn't what made me tick. And I felt I just had more to give the world with the gifts that God had given me. And I wanted to be a better human than what I was at the time. And not that I was a bad, I don't have like some story where I went from rags to riches and I'm not out of the jail and I wasn't some, scumbag scam artist. It's just in my brain, I wanted to be a man of character and I wanted to take the opportunity to rewrite something where I could impact more people. And this, at the time, was a really good opportunity. And it was with my two brothers, essentially. And it's like, well, with you guys. And it's like, well, why the fuck not, And it comes back to, like, if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Like, I was 28, 29 years old. If I'm going to take a shot at this, it's got to be now. I had no kids. You know what I mean? I had a dog. I lived in a single-story, 1,600 square foot ranch house. Like, fuck, man.
You weren't even dating
Let's
Rocky
go.
yet, I don't think. At the
Yeah,
start.
no, I was dating Rocky right at the beginning. Like right when we kind of started, because she transitioned her career too. But the first year I spent 90 nights on the road.
I was about to say, how many miles did you log in that Maxima?
I think I only had it for 18 months and had 54,000 miles on it or something like that. It was pretty good.
Man, I got a question for you. So anybody who follows Sal now knows that the goal on Sal's vision board is a badass fishing boat and being able to go freaking offshore fishing. But when you were driving that many, and you were gone 90 days in a row and spending that much windshield time, what was the item that you were thinking about? I know overall, like you just said, it's about, trying to create the culture, trying to create fucking this, but what was it that was keeping you motivated during that time? Cause that's a fucking grind, dude.
Yeah. I think, if the sooner I've always been, and it's going to sound really weird, but I've always been really in tune with the law of attraction and being self-aware of mental capacity in that regard. And all great things in life are very difficult. And the reason most people aren't successful is because they can't take the long road. And the long road is very monotonous. And when you can spend time behind a windshield understanding, and I did this in medical sales, which is what really led me to some of my success. I would go out and spend time in all the rural accounts because nobody else would go do it.
Creating calluses, basically.
Well, it was hard, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was hard to go wake up at 3:00 in the morning, drive 2 hours.
For one account.
For one surgery.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And maybe it gets canceled. You fucking just drove 5 hours for what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But you drove 5 hours to be able to say hi to the surgeon and say hello and introduce yourself. And he knows that you drove all that way, right? So I learned a lot of valuable lessons in that windshield time and saying, hey, these other guys aren't visiting these accounts. They're not saying hello. They don't have the skill set I have in working the counter. And if you talk to one of our top accounts, Steve Calabrese in Natural Body in New York City, like, I literally got there, and if you ask him, like, and I'm not saying this, like, he's never had a rep work the sales floor. Well, fuck, I work sales floor. I work sales floor in every part of the country. I would teach people, proper nutrition. I wouldn't let them buy fat burners. I'd say, hey, listen, before we get into the fat burner realm, what are we eating? What are we looking like? What does your day look like?
Mm-hmm.
And start giving them some PSGs and start walking them through,
Genuinely helping them. Helping them.
Well, and a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm a fat guy. And I've struggled with weight my entire life. So for me to look at somebody in the face, I understand the struggle that they're going through. I bought every fucking fat burner known to man. And trust me, if fat burners really genuinely worked without you doing the work, I'd be jacked, tan, and shredded fucking 365 days year round. So would you. Mm-hmm. So would everybody. Mm-hmm. Can they add value? Sure. There's a time and place for them, but that's not the magic.
Right.
And, I know how to have that conversation because I tell people all the time, I speak fat. Like, I understand the conversation that's going down. I understand why that consumer's walking in the door. They're walking in the door because they want to make a change. And when they get fed time after time after time again, oh, this pill, oh, this wrap, oh, this pill, they start to lose hope. And once they lose hope, they stop trying. And they're coming through that door one more time for hope. They're looking for an individual to help hold them accountable and teach them some basic tricks or tips to help get them moving in the right direction. And when you can dismantle that brick wall that there's no magic pill, you can start to build a little bit of relationship. Mm-hmm. And what happens is once you start having that relationship, it's trust. So we use a theory, educate, trust, loyalty, 1, 2, 3. It's a 1, 2, 3 of selling. You have to educate them on why or why not this is the right plan. You have to, and then when they go out and apply that, they're going to learn a little bit of trust. Once you earn trust, they come back, they lost 5, 10 pounds, and you have an opportunity to gain some loyalty. They're going to walk back in the door and say, hey, what else? What else should I take? What else should I do?
And they're going to bring a friend with them.
Ideally, right? And so, being able to speak fat, again, this is another low in my life. I remember cutting my grass, and I'm on a 0-turn mower, and my fat's bouncing around. And, everybody wants to be jacked, tan, and shredded. I mean, I live around everybody in our ecosystem is jacked, tan, and shredded. I'm fat, and I work my fucking ass off. You know what I mean? I work my fucking ass off. And I used to think, like, why do I have the fat gene? But much like breaking my leg that day, I realized, like, that's a gift from God. That's my story. Mm-hmm. My story is like, all right, I understand. Like, he's saying, hey, man, like, you want to do this. Like, this is part of your chapter. And you have to identify these things along the ride. It's not a poor me. It's not, oh, well, he gave this to me and it's poor me. It's like, why did he give me this? Well, it's a tool, but it's only a tool if you use it. And these things just started clicking to me in my brain as we're going through this, transition and cycle and what we're doing and how we're revolutionizing the industry and what's happening. It's like, dude, that's the best gift he ever gave me. He gave me the perspective of what these people feel like when they walk through the door. They just want change. Mm-hmm. Like, they want to make a difference. They want to fucking be a better husband or father or mother or brother or sister. And, like, that was my gift. And so when I learned to work the floor I didn't work about selling anything. I always talked about helping them. And, quickly across the country, we started,
gaining traction,
making a good little reputation around, hey, these guys.
It went from being like a brand that they sold to being like, this is our brand that we always that we promote.
Yeah,
if you will.
by doing the right thing.
Right.
And I think, if you look at our company in any way since the Phorm, you listen to Andrew, you listen to, anybody in our ecosystem, it's like, do the right thing. And people will blast us from the outside and they'll say, it's always industry people who are jealous or bullshit, or we've had people come into our system and leave and they always try to throw shade at us. And it's kind of like, you know what? I feel really good every single night when I put my head down, knowing the impact that we're having, not only in this industry, but in the world, developing and helping people change their lives, developing and helping people change their careers. I mean, we have 400 people that work here at HQ. We're developing jobs. We could have AI chat and robots and all these things that we don't, but we believe in that American core value of restoring the faith in humanity and doing it by leading by example, which is one of our core values. And I think when you look at what we're most proud of is that, we're actually making a change in a world that's so negative. We're taking the long, hard route that most people won't take. Does it take a little longer? Sure. But again, just like most things in life, like the windshield time, once you learn to embrace the fact that we're going to be here for a minute, you stop focusing on how long it's taking and you start focusing on how do I do the best that I can right now with the decision that I have in front of me, and what are these obstacles that are being thrown at me, and are they gifts that I can pivot into opportunity? And unfortunately, we live in a society where people want it fast. They play the poor me card early, and they're not self-aware enough to take a step back, realize it's going to take a little bit longer than you think. Success is going to take a little bit longer than you think. A journey of fitness is going to take a little bit longer than you think. But if you make the best decision that you can at the time with what you have in front of you, ultimately over a long period of time, you'll have success. In that, you're going to get a lot of obstacles. And you have to do the best you can in that moment. Like just the best you can. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to do the best you can. And thinking about, most people worry about being perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to make progress. You got to get a little bit better. Like when you fall off, you got to get back up and try not to fall off again. It doesn't mean you're not going to fall off again. It means that you can't hopefully fall off as bad, right? And, those little core concepts that I learned through windshield time and through spending a lot of time in stores, being with store owners and customers and, then developing a cool team here and being a part of something cool here, you start to really get a snapshot of life. And I think, going back to, the question earlier of what kept you going, that law of attraction in my brain was always there. Like I understood and I believed, to your point earlier, that we could do what they say can't be done, but we're going to have to do what it is that they're not doing.
Correct.
And
the tangible actions that other people aren't willing to take.
Bro, and it's long. You know what I mean? Like, you guys think about it. I've been here, it'll be 14 years. And my career just didn't start at 14 years, but we've been doing just this for 14 years. And we've had, some success, and we've gotten lucky in some things, I guess, people will say. But one core common thing that has not changed is we do the right thing for the customer. We do the right thing for our employee. We do the right thing for our retailer. It's not the most profitable thing. It's the right thing from a human aspect. And I think that's what people appreciate about a brand. And honestly, that's what I love most about where I get to go to work every day.
Well, dude, we sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tell us all that, man.
I know that was like a really fucking long-winded circle to get you to your answer, but
no, man,
I think, dude,
it's important.
Something you were talking about as far as like the weight loss thing, some of the best times of my life working out was when you and me basically lost a bunch of weight at the same time.
That's right.
And having those
CrossFit
morning workouts.
314, babe.
Yep. With Will making us go every freaking morning. But
That's
dude, that period of my life really changed a lot of things for me because it kind of opened my eyes to other ways of training. I grew up just being a meathead and bodybuilding and stuff like that. And it also was the first time I felt like real community in working out. And, that, dude, honestly, I just wanted to say thanks for that time because that time was fucking awesome, man. It was great.
Listen, life's about the one thing I think, too, speaking about First Phorm is, we brought back community fitness too. Like we were very, very, very prevalent in that change, not just banding into CrossFit, but really just community fitness.
Yeah.
And the reason that's important, and you'll go back, is like, I love the locker room. I loved working out together. I love sweating together. I love running lines together. I love running lines together, hungover and looking at each other and laughing and being like, dude, what the fuck did you do last night? You know, like, and
what were you thinking?
Yeah, for real. And that piece of life for me has always been, how can I recreate it with team?
Yeah.
And that's what I love. And I think back, you know, I don't know if you guys talk about it, and I don't even know who your audience is, so I apologize.
No, this is all good.
Probably should have asked.
No,
because I could tailor an answer. Is it younger? Is it older? Is it business? Is it really bros? Because I can have a really good, you know, a lot of people don't know
I would
this.
say it's the Kansas City fitness community.
We had a really good bro, you know, podcast back in the day.
You did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
dude.
funny. I tell people all the time, I probably forgot more about sports nutrition than I know now. Like, there was a time when I was like, I'm going to be the master of fucking sports nutrition.
Yeah.
I could get in a toe-to-toe with anybody. I mean, I just had
Right.
an hour-long FaceTime with Lane Norton the other day. You know, it's like, and I just love learning. So I've always loved the pieces of it, and I love a little good conversation. And anyway, that's neither here nor there, but the bro side of me is still there.
Yeah.
But I think back to Kyle, because I don't know if you guys have spoken about this, but Kyle almost quit.
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken about it many times.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Well, I mean, on the podcast.
I don't think so. Maybe one time, but please, yeah.
We don't talk about our own story as much on the podcast because we have guests, but yeah.
Yeah, we want to make sure it's
Understood.
about the guest, but yeah, I mean,
But I think it's
all
cool.
this is tied together.
Well,
you
okay,
know?
so leadership, right? Like, this is, you know, I've known you guys for like, really 16, 17
Yeah, you and I had a quitting conversation as well.
Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
go
You know?
right ahead.
In fact, we've had two of them.
Yeah, one of
And-
them was not my choice, though, probably.
Yeah. But I mean, again, going back to mentoring, because I look at somebody like Will, and I think of Will and Aaron and you guys, like, that's what keeps me going, you know, is like, I love being in the dogfight with the dudes. It's fun. I'm wired to fucking do it, you know? And
It's the most fun.
it
the
is.
most fun.
I mean,
I still remember, you know, when I was gonna quit, you know, I was basically working a ton. I was feeling bad for myself. I was going through one of those moments where, you know, just a lot of people go through where you just become kind of a pussy about what you're going through, and you kind of get the poor
woe is
me's.
me's. Yeah.
And
Same.
I remember calling or Andy calling me and being like, "Come down to my office now," and I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Dun dun dun. Yeah.
I go in there and it's you, Andy, and Jason in there, and you're just like, you're smiling. You're like, don't do that. Don't do it, bro.
Just to be clear, guys, Kyle was he was literally hired and was 100% like done with S2 and was going to go work and sell corporate insurance.
Commercial. Yeah.
Commercial, my bad. Didn't
fucking idiots.
yeah.
But I remember walking in and I'm like, bro, you're not doing that. Like, I won't let you do it. And he was already gone.
Yeah, he literally had already like signed a lease for a different place.
And
in Pittsburgh, Kansas, by the way.
Yeah, and then that
Great
was kind
town.
of part of the transition into you going into CrossFitting with us every day. I'm like, dude,
You're like, dude, don't do that.
you're not fucking doing that. And
But that's true. The community aspect, I guess I was working so much and I was just kind of like, I was kind of lost. And, you know, you're right. Right after that, you kind of brought me in. You're like, dude, let's fucking work out every morning, you know, get your fucking head on straight. And it changed everything, dude. It changed my life. And also that night I went home and my wife looked at me and she was like, you're a fucking meathead, dude. You're not going to sell insurance. You like talking about
Does Kim
supplements.
Nah, probably not.
She'll listen to this because she's
yeah,
got a crush on you.
I got a crush on Kim. You know what I'm saying? That's the joke with Kyle.
Yeah.
How's Kim doing?
Yeah.
That's how long we've all known
Stop
each other.
it.
Yeah, Kim's like, I love Sal.
Yeah, I'm like,
I mean,
stop.
But point being is like, and I think when you really look around and you realize that like life's not really about you.
Yeah.
It's about who's around you and then how you can add value to their situations. And I think all too often we get caught up in this rat race of me, like me.
Got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's fair, right? But I think when you find value in helping other people and identifying how you can add value to their life, your life becomes insurmountably better with just that thought process. And what happens as a byproduct of it is you become more successful because you have more people rooting for you in the right direction. And, you know, when you start, you know, because you guys both have direct access to me, right? Because you and I had a very similar conversation. You're like, dude, we're not moving. Like, this isn't what happened. And, you know,
You're like, dude, you're literally leaving when we're like getting ready to like light this rocket.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was at HOA 3.
Yeah. And you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it was.
You
for
know,
sure.
but that's the thing being is like you have to have that support from people that have similar mindsets and belief. And you got to know and recognize when somebody close to you needs a little help.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be able to reach out. And I think the locker room taught me that. And that's what I love today. It's not, I don't make decisions based off how they're most impactful to me and to my bottom line. I make decisions based off how they're impactful to the relationships that I have in doing the right thing. And sometimes they cost me money, or sometimes they'll cost me, time, energy, and effort. But the ultimate return on investment is being in an ecosystem around people that value you and care about you and have the similar thought process to you to make a change in the world. And when I walk into this place every day, I am blessed. I feel like I'm the most blessed human on planet Earth because I have that.
Yeah.
And it is a give-get, doesn't make it easy. Fuck, my life's still really hard. I think a lot of people, the joke is I ride in on a magic carpet and, shit out $100 bills.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with you guys. Nothing good walks through my door.
Not a single thing that is nice happened. When I get a call, it sucks.
Nobody walks in and says, "Hey, man, how's your day?" It's always like, "Sal,
I got this problem,
bro." You know what I mean?
I think you got an interesting job, or what you've been good at is basically, if I look back at that time in my life, I was realigning the circle of influence in my life, right? So I was learning who I should pay attention to and who I shouldn't pay attention to. And because you guys have such a young staff here, it's not as young as it used to be, but I mean, it's still pretty young. Mm-hmm. You're having to go through that with people a lot, where people are trying to figure out, it's crabs in the bucket, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have those people in their life that they're like, dude, you're working how much and you're getting paid how much and you're doing this and that. And it's like, it's a lot to go through if you're trying to go through that on your own without somebody like you stepping in and being like, dude, it's okay. We're all in this fucking together, and, this is where we're headed.
Yeah, and I just think, it comes back to that thing where everybody's so focused in the wrong direction. You're focused on how can I make the most money and how can I do it faster?
Take care of myself first.
Yeah, and I have been there, so I understand where the thought process comes from. But it's funny, as an old guy, as an elder, what I realize is there's a time and a place for that, but it's very, very minute, very small pieces where you should concentrate on yourself, and you have to really learn to add value to those people around you, because ultimately they will make your life better, big picture and long term. And the stronger you make them, the stronger you are inherently, because you've got a great team. And if you're only focused on yourself, they'll recognize that too, which is then they'll leave and they'll go find somebody that they find valuable that will lead them down a path. And, we have a lot of young people, and I can tell you, you wouldn't believe the amount of questions I answer in regards to relationships and money, because when you're young, you struggle with relationships and money. It's part of the youth. It's not, I hate this when people say, "Oh, the millennials don't want to work." And I'm always like, well, I'm a millennial motherfucker by nature, so I'll kick your fucking ass. What do you think about that? It's not that they don't want to work. It's that most employers don't know how to lead.
Right.
And so leading in this day and age is not yelling at him and telling him to do a job. It's saying, "Hey, bro, what are you struggling with? All right, listen, I need you to do your job. But in addition to the pay and everything else, I'm gonna help counsel you. I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna educate you about things in life. Let me guess, you struggle with money. Hey, here's a book. There's a book out there. I give.
Profit First.
Yeah, the Automatic Millionaire.
Automatic Millionaire.
But Automatic Millionaire is a basic fundamental finance book that teaches young people how to pay themselves first.
Yeah.
I read that book. I read it when I was 20. It's deeply impacted my life. I've been following the game plan for 22 years. I can tell you it works.
He's the guy I called when I was going to buy my first house. I was like, Sal,
sure.
give me some advice here.
And hopefully you followed it.
I did.
You know what I mean? And then, and when it comes to relationships, but specifically with guys, I realize is most guys don't communicate well. They don't listen, and so, but that also is, there's a double-edged sword there, because it teaches them to be better employees, because you teach them to learn to listen, and they have to learn to communicate. A lot of times we think we're communicating, but we're not communicating. It's one of those things where you're like, hey, I have to sit down and have a really hard or emotional conversation with you. I don't like that, or that's not how I want to be treated. And you're like, oh, I'm a pussy because I'm saying, no, man, it's we got to start setting these boundaries. This is part of the deal about having a successful marriage and being a successful leader is you got to start setting boundaries. You are what you tolerate. What are you going to tolerate? How's it going to work? What's going to happen? And so, learning to teach these young people how to have those conversations, they naturally become a better work environment, because now we're communicating more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
we're clearly on the same page now.
Well, you learn, you teach them how do you have this scary conversation? Well, the same way you have every other fucking conversation. Hey, you got 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I had one yesterday with a guy. I told him, I said, hey, listen, pop in my office. He walked in the door. I'm at this point, I'm a pretty good veteran at this. you're going to sit in that chair for 10 minutes. I'm going to give you 10 minutes of my thoughts and feelings. Okay. You're not going to like it. Doesn't mean I don't like you, but you're not going to like what I'm going to have to say. Okay. I don't want you to rebut anything. We can have a conversation post, but I'm going to tell you where I'm at. And I just tell them, this is where I'm at. Then I give them some time. This is where you're at. Okay. This is what I need you to do. This is how can I help you get to where I need to be? What are you struggling with so I can help you get there? And dude, the bond, like I give the guy a hug afterwards and it's like a real fucking hug.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
It's like a young man.
I clearly care about you before I spout off.
Transparency, dude. Mm-hmm. It's the transparency of the whole thing where it's like, I'm going to actually tell you how I feel. Well, which a lot of people dance around that.
And it's hard for them, right? Like, truth is, 10 years ago, I fired the guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro.
Because it's easier to do that. You're like,
well, not only that, we have to establish our high standards as a company. You know what I mean? And I have, before we wrap up, because I know we're getting close, I got two big ones for you.
Well, let me finish this.
Please.
Because what you realize is you have to have an emotional connection if you're willing to ask somebody to do hard shit. Like, they have to believe that you care about them. And it can't just be a belief. It has to be a repetitive action. Like, they know that you fucking care. Mm-hmm. Like, think about that. Like, you're asking them to go against their friends, and their friends are wondering why they're working so many hours and why they work so fucking hard and why. Because their friends don't have a boss that cares about them or a leader that fucking teaches them about life and believes in them and hugs them and helps them communicate and fuck, dude, I will cry with you. I will fight with you. I will sweat with you. Like, they don't have that. So they think you're weird. But the truth is, they don't really understand what it's like. Mm. But that emotional
environment like that,
and that emotional connection is what is the bridge that is from good to great. Yeah, and you have to believe in those people, and you have to help them. Sometimes you're going to get burned, but that's okay. That's part of the process. Sorry,
you can't let that dictate how you're going to treat everybody else because of one bad egg. No, but it's hard on those bad eggs to.
How many bad eggs have we experienced?
So many.
But how many great ones?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes we get lost in translation. Like, we focus on the 2 bad eggs, not the 20 great ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to focus on these last 2 points before we wrap up on. You've been a mentor for so many, specifically myself and Kyle.
You guys need higher goals.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll tell you right now, dude, you're 7 years older than me. You're exactly the same age as my older brother. I grew up idolizing my older brother. And your standards are just much higher than his. And my standards have evolved too as well. And so I've had to look to you on just like, well, whatever it is you're doing, I want to be doing that at that age, right? And I would say that we talk to our company or our staff all the time that the most important employee that you can have on your team is the number 2, not the number 1. The number 2 is the most important. And that's not to say that you were a number 2, but you were the guy, you were always the in-between us and Andy and Chris.
Still am.
For sure. And so you can, when you're hearing Andy talk to you, most of the time you're thinking he's still guarding his position, if that makes sense. Yeah. When I'm talking to you, you're like, hey, man, I'm going to give you like the real, and that's why the number 2 seemingly always comes across as the most important, because you don't, as human nature, the person that's directly paying you, sometimes you don't want to believe them. You know what I mean? And we've got timelines and other things that have happened in our careers that made us second guess what he's telling us, right? Yeah. And so as you've grown to scale 400, plus employees, who would you consider as these people for you right now? Because at scale, how do you do that?
I got tons of them. I mean, that's the other thing is like, I always feel guilty because I sit here and I get a lot of credit, but the truth of the matter is, man, I got like just a slew of studs around me. Mm-hmm. And
we've watched them all, grind and go through it and raise.
And they're just such good people.
Will is like a guy that like our staff in Kansas City looks to.
For sure.
From social media standpoint, they all look to him. And, it's crazy seeing. And
the generations are happening underneath. You got TJ now. You got, these other guys that have been here a long time now. But it's, obviously Aaron. I mean, the list goes on. But
Aaron and I don't look at the number 2. Like, the number is funny because, ego is the enemy, right? Even though there's a good book by a guy by the name of Ryan Holiday. He's a complete raging liberal, like, outcast, but he is super intelligent. Like, his writings are really good. Obstacle is the way. Ego is the enemy. Like, he's a very, very intelligent human. And I learned to check my ego, against being the number 2. I don't really care. Because the way I look at it is like, I look at it as a football team. Somebody's got to hike the ball. Somebody's got to throw the ball. Somebody's got to block the guy that throws the ball. And most people don't recognize this, but usually, the second or third highest player on a football team is the left tackle. You know what I mean? He's protecting the quarterback. Most people don't know the left tackle's name. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm okay. I don't care.
Right.
Like, it's not
about the credit.
I don't care. I used to, you know what I mean? I used to care a great deal, but I realized as I developed, like, actually irrelevant. You know, it's how effective is the team at winning and running the game plan, and what is my role inside of that.
The right people know who's deserving of that credit, if that makes sense.
Do you know what matters when I go home and I look in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
That I did everything I could to help the team win. I don't give a fuck about how many points I scored. 22-year-old me, I gave a fuck about how many points I scored. You know, even 32-year-old
I was going to say 32.
But I developed, and you know, those are things, and I think those are young egotistical things that come a part of being a young man and then progressing into an older person. But I have so many good young people around me, and is it a credit to, you know, the environment that we've raised these kids in? Maybe. Is it a credit to their parents? Maybe. Mm-hmm. Is it the mission because they believe in it? Maybe. Mm-hmm. Is it God gifting us the tools that we need in order to make the change that we need in society? Maybe. But I stopped figuring out what all the factors are and started really being grateful for what's around me, because I look at these kids and I'm like, fuck, man. I mean, I had a conversation, you know, I was actually talking to Andrew. I was like, some of these kids are 31 years old. I said, dude, they're so much better than we were at 31. Like, they are light years ahead of it. And that's good and bad, right? Because we've given them a lot of knowledge that we've had to learn the hard way.
Sure.
And there's nothing like fucking learning how hot fire is by sticking your finger in it.
It's true.
You know, 2 or 3 times, right? But I mean, I look at some of the talent in these kids, and they're great kids. And I'm just very fortunate, you know, and for whatever the reasons it may be, you know, no matter who brought them here or why they developed or what it is, you know, the core group of kids
that are now 30, 31 years old.
Yeah, that I
which
had.
Which is crazy to think. Yeah, they were 19, 20.
They lived with me. You know what I mean? I've loaned them money and bought their house and sold them houses and financed their house. I mean, I've done everything you could fucking possibly do. And like Brian Teach just walks by. He's my road warrior. Guy took care of golf courses. Mm-hmm. Now he runs our entire sales program for, you know, all of our stores. Like, he's a stud of a human.
Yeah.
And he's developed so much into a man. Like, it's like
incredible. Yeah.
It's cool.
Different person.
Dude, you know Teach was like a godsend for me when we brought him onto the company, because he helped sub in when I had to fire the whole staff of Edwardsville. Yeah. He was driving over there every day.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't have nothing for him to do.
No. Yeah, dude, there's 50
we got
stores
2
like
boxes we got to pack, and then can you go help Kyle in Edwardsville?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, last thing. So there was about a week ago, and when you said this, I'm like, pretty much all of your your Instagram stories where you're giving out just a little bit of lessons, some advice to people on the Instagram. And so you're saying, I just had this thing happen to me today. Just want to let you guys know. You said when you were 31 years old, you thought you knew everything.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm 41 years old, and I can tell you I don't know shit.
Yeah.
You know, the Dunning-Kruger effect or something, you know. And I'm just like, what happened to Sal today? I want to know.
Well, we're going through a phase of business where you got to understand, okay, so we have 190,000 square feet here. We're building 170,000 square feet next door. I got 130 going next to it. And, you know, you have to go through all this bank financing and buildings, and we're going to the energy drink space, and, you know, there's this totally different distribution network, and how do you
so complex
get capital to build an energy drink? And, you know, we don't have any financing inside our business. We're all self-generated, which a lot of people don't understand business, which is a fucking unicorn, right? And we've done all these things, and you start going through, and you bring like really intelligent people in to like help you walk through this, and they're teaching you. Like, they can't understand what you understand about business. Like, I could not teach somebody like how simple business is to my brain. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not very intelligent. I just understand what I do understand, which is how to help people. And it's like a lemonade stand. I just, you know, cycle them through. But there's a different level of big business that's just like out there that you're just like, what the fuck?
Right.
And when you think you know it all, life will serve you like a really nice shit sandwich. Now, this same thing happened when I had a 30-year-old come into my office with a little bit of ego, and I had to look at him and say, listen, I know you think you understand, but I sit here as somebody today this is the same day. So I'm learning things from like a big business standpoint that I'm digesting, and I'm like, what the fuck? The same day a kid comes in, and he's kind of telling me how to run the business, because that's not what it is, but he's, you know, giving me his, you know, type A ego. His ego's out in front of his skis. And I listened, and I looked at him and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to tell this to you like the best way I know how, because I just experienced this today. You think you know. You're 31, you're doing well, you're selling, you're growing your career, you've had a couple good years. But I promise you don't know shit. You don't know shit. Like, you will realize, like, when 10 years from now, I promise you, when you're sitting in this seat or you're sitting in a different seat, you're going to look back in this conversation and realize you didn't know shit. And I said, I know it's really hard to think because at 31, I thought I knew fucking everything, but I really don't know shit. And it's really hard because, like, I'm very proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish. Although we have a long way to go, like, we've done a lot of really cool things. And I don't know shit. And it's like, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like,
so
fuck.
it's like the definition of humbling.
There's just different levels, man.
It, you know?
It's crazy. And especially with you guys, you know, you're going from being, you know, to jumping into the nationwide big business market. And it's just, man, there's a lot going on there.
Worldwide.
Yeah, we're trying. When we're Nike and Gatorade, you're thinking.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, that's what we're going after.
This
right?
is the business deals that they do, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Well, people don't realize this. Like, we're trying to merge Nike and Gatorade. We're going after them, like, and we're going to go after them in an apparel standpoint. Like, we have this whole new 24-month business model we're going after, and like, that's those are things like a fucking hey, man. Like, I don't know shit. But to your audience, because I want to add some value. I don't want it to be just story time. I actually hate the fact that it's just story time. I would prefer not.
Dude, I think you've added a ton of value.
But I mean, if you're a young fitness enthusiast, right, and you're listening to this podcast and you've made it this far, I've watched so many people ruin their careers by getting caught up in the ego of who is right. Like, I'm a trainer. I'm 31. I've been training for 5 years. I know more than blah, 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 blah. And what I've learned about fitness is the same thing about business. The second you think you understand it all, you're a fucking idiot. You've lost. Like you. I'm a power lifter. I'm a bro lifter. I've done a bodybuilding show. He fell in love with CrossFit. 12 years ago, if you'd have told him he'd fall in love with CrossFit, he'd have told you you're a fucking idiot. 12 years ago, if you had told me I'd do a fucking Ironman, I would have said, there's no fucking way. But you never know what you don't know until you try it. And that humility is what makes a great trainer. That humility is what makes a great advocate of somebody who's on the other side of that training facility, that you can help change their life, because now you have the ability to have a conversation not only about running, but about CrossFit, about powerlifting, about training, about changing their life. And how do you adapt through it? How do you take them through a tread deck class? Like, how do you do all of these things as a variety, as an asset and value add to them? Because whenever you just square peg round hole every person that comes through, they will turn you through. They will leave you. You will constantly cycle your customer base because you're trying to square peg round hole. And not everybody wants to go and bro lift 4 days a week for 10 years. Like, it's not just what happens. Like, there's a variety aspect that you just may fall in love with if you check your goddamn ego and go out and give it a try.
That's awesome, man.
100%.
Hey, brother, we appreciate you so much. We love you. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
on.
dude.
You guys too.
Yeah, man.
I want to come back.
You doing this, man.
I want to be back in the fitness podcasting space.
Come hang out in Kansas City with us for one day.
All right.
We're going to do it.
What are we going to do? We're going to podcast on what? We're going to talk about, like, protein?
We could talk about
Isolate versus
anything.
concentrate?
We actually, we're the protein
WPC
bros, but we
50.
One
talk.
of my questions on
we
here
talk
was,
very
how did you
small-
convince Andy to do a chocolate and vanilla Formula One?
Oh, dude, it's funny. Okay, great story, right?
Yeah.
I went into Chris and Andrew's office. I'm like, dude, we got to make a chocolate and vanilla. They're like, it'll never fucking
It'll
sell.
never sell. It's not fruity.
It'll never sell. It was fucking, and
For our listeners, at the time, there was like there was a cherry lime, there was a fruit punch, and there was a watermelon.
Yep.
Like, that was it. We would never do a chocolate or a vanilla.
still our number one and number two sellers, but hey, who's counting?
Yeah. Not trying to be right, though.
And I still go up and poke Chris Klein about it every once in a while. But it's one of those things where, listen, but those are things that, we've evolved as a brand. You got to make change. You got to be able to adapt and overcome. And so, you know what? Not every decision like that have we want to, either. Hey, we're gonna sell whatever. Insert here, and it's like gets out there. You're like, bam. So,
hey, this year, remember, I'm turning 35. You're gonna come to a fitness challenge in Kansas City. I gotta give you a date.
We're running a half marathon.
That's right.
Yeah, I could do that today.
I know, but I mean,
if you would have told me 10 years ago that I
could
could run a half marathon on the drop of a hat, I'd have said, "There's no fucking way." I mean, if you had to go out right now and run it, I'm in.
Yeah,
I did it to my whole staff like
That's
3
right.
months ago.
For everyone that's listening, Sal is the first guy that made me run a half marathon. He came into the gym one day and he goes, "You in?" And I was like,
that's his fucking thing. He's the worst.
Are you fucking in?
You know what he said to me? It was on 6 days' notice, and he goes, "I know you're gonna do it." And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Because you're my friend."
Yeah, Jeff
That's
tries
right.
to use that shit
like,
on
"Fuck
me.
you."
That's right.
I tried it on him, and it didn't work.
See, the salesman thing, I got it down. But if you build the emotional connection, they'll go with you. So you see how that works?
Yeah.
I bet you I've made more people, and maybe not than anybody on planet Earth, run their first half marathon. But I'm in the thousands at this point. By the time we get the online challenges and all things going, it's like, hey, listen, we're running to this date. Who's in? I get tagged. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people will tag me. They're out fucking running.
How I think it's crazy that you did that with freaking triathlons. Because, like, dude,
Yeah, people just jumping into triathlons.
A half Ironman is no shit, dude.
So you guys want to go?
Oh god.
Yeah, well, we got to pick a date. But I'm telling you,
for half Ironman, you want in?
Dude, don't start this with him. He's actually going to fucking make us do it.
So it's on my docket.
Well, I wanted to do it, but remember you showed me the cost of a bike, and I go, well, no, I'm not fucking doing that.
Hey, the rule is this. The rule is this. He can pick a date if he comes out to Kansas City, does this half marathon.
I will do it. That's easy. When is it in April?
It's in April, but we could.
It's like right around my birthday.
I was thinking
like
maybe do
April
something
12th
more
or something.
fun, like a fucking obstacle one or something. You know what I mean?
No, you know what I did that was really cool was I rucked a marathon on my 40th.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It was rad.
You rucked a full?
I rucked a full marathon with 40 pounds.
Fuck yeah, man.
We had like 24
How did I not
guys
know
do
that?
it. Oh, because you didn't want to do it. Everybody closes their eyes when hard shit comes around.
No one ever asked me. I don't got a text. You got a screenshot? Shut up.
Probably.
No, you don't. I can't say no.
Jeff says no to me every other day on working out.
It's like an 8-hour ordeal. It's a long ass day. But it's cool, man, because like I'm really into the kumbaya shit at this point in time in my life. Like I really love to connect to guys. Like, and I mean, I will talk about if you knew the shit I knew about people, you know what I mean? Like, and I love it. It's not because the same weird shit that you struggle with, every motherfucker struggles with. It's just that they can't communicate it. Mm-hmm. Well, I've learned I'll just communicate. I don't care. Like, you ain't gonna embarrass me. You know, my wife's hot. I got a great job. Guys that love me. Like, I fucked up a lot along the ride. I do stupid shit. I think stupid shit. And you know what? We're fucking imperfect. That's what we're designed to be. But you get like 8 hours with somebody and you get that struggle and that constant, you can see them wanting to quit and you just tap into them. Hey, what do you think? What are you thinking about? You know, and for whatever reason, that's what's fucking, I love that shit.
Going through the discomfort with people, man.
Oh, be comfortable in the uncomfortable. So
very true.
Listen, that's that.
Cool, appreciate you guys.
Love you guys. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, buddy.
See you guys.
Thank you guys for listening.